Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So there has been some further information that has come out about the Nashville bomber, and as I predicted, that I said that there would probably be some kind of manifesto sent out, and this was just based on the situation that we were presented in terms of the scene, just the expressive way in which he set up the computer, playing the song and so on. It just did seem that he was trying to make a statement besides the powerful blast itself and the situation around that. Bear in mind, the blast went off, I think it was 6:30 a.m. on Christmas morning. That was meant to kind of send a message, I think, as well. So recently, CNN reported that Warner's neighbors and someone that worked with him had very little substantive to say about him. In other words, that they couldn't really give law enforcement anything of value about what kind of person he was. They just described him as a loner and a computer expert. I actually think that that is more than sufficient information. What that is telling you is that he was a guy who was not getting much reinforcement from other people. He wouldn't be balancing some of his ideas through other people, through the sounding board of other people. And also, he was probably a loner to begin with because his ideas were kind of far-fetched or strange and perhaps drove him. I think it was kind of a self-fulfilling cycle. He would be lonely and then he would get caught up in delusional thinking, which we'll go into in a moment. And as he got more and more caught up into that reinforced his loneliness. I know as an author, I spend a lot of time on my own, and sometimes when you come into contact with ordinary people, like the average person, you can put them off because you might talk a lot, because you've been on your own a lot. You talk a lot, and then they feel like, wow, you talk a lot and you don't listen, and I don't really like that kind of thing. Or you get stuck in certain ruts of conversation and it's not what they want to talk about, kind of thing. So I'm just saying, if you unsocialized, it may tend to reinforce the things that are causing you to be antisocial in the first place, certain antisocial views and so on. Now, what is quite interesting is the law enforcement are still not calling his act, the Nashville bombing, a terrorist act, but I think that it may well have been. It may well have been the furtherance of a political goal. On the other hand, you could argue that because he was so delusional and kind of silly in a way, that this doesn't qualify. It's just too silly to be something that is well conceived, that is actually a well conceived and integrated political thought, if that makes sense. But now information has come out. I think it came out in an article on newschannel5.com that he sent kind of a package to a couple of people, but they like rambling, but it was definitely from Warner. And the cover letter in his packages reads, "Hey dude, you'll never believe what I found in the park. The knowledge I've gained is immeasurable. I now understand everything. And I mean everything from who or what we really are to what the known universe really is." So it's really grandiose, it's really kind of overblown. He's discovered the meaning of life, the answer to life, the universe and everything. And it's apparently not 42. The cover letter is also signed by Julio, which is also the same name he gave to his dog. He had a dog called Julio. So what this is already showing is that just even in the small little snippet, Warner has clearly gone off the rails, right? The letter goes on to urge his friends to watch internet videos that he included on 2 Samsung thumb drives. And what is interesting with this is it resonates with the research I did into the Tsarnaev brothers, who were self-radicalized online, and that is something that can happen these days with the Google algorithms and the things that we see happening quite a lot, that you can become self-radicalized online by virtue of these algorithms that tell you what you want to hear. It's not necessarily the truth or true, it's what you want to be exposed to. And so Warner's sort of, I think how long was the thing? I think it was eight pages or something. But a couple of pages, he talks about the 9/11 conspiracy theories, the moon landing hoax, and he talks about there are so many anomalies they are hard to count in terms of both of these, the moon landing and 9/11. He then later wrote that September 2011 was supposed to be the end game for the planet, because that is when he believed that aliens and UFOs began launching attacks on Earth. So you've got to kind of wonder how his thinking is going, if he's sort of thinking the world is supposed to end 9 years earlier, well, almost 10 years earlier, and so is he helping to end the world by doing what he was doing? It also kind of makes you think that he felt like there wasn't a place for him in the world because the world is being overrun by aliens. And so someone who didn't really understand him or treated him weirdly or looked at him weirdly, well, perhaps they were an alien, and that would explain it. But, I mean, I think the key word here is alienated. Warner felt alienated to such an extent that he didn't really see the point in living himself. And then he also wrote that the media were covering up these attacks by aliens. And there you see the resentment against possibly AT&T. He also talks about reptilians and lizard people that he believes controls the earth and tweak humans' DNA, and he says they put a switch into the human brain so they could walk among us and appear human. This all just shows how detached he is from reality and from other people, and how alienated he is once again just from other people. And you kind of feel sorry for him in a way. But I think the other thing that is really going on here is Warner feels like a very insignificant, small, powerless little creature. He feels like this ant walking on the earth, and I think this explosion was calculated to sort of show that how can I put it? To show that he is not a nothing, he's not a nobody. But of course he was. He was a nothing and he was a nobody, and he felt it, which is why he did what he did. It's the same thing with all of these other mass killers. It is based on a perceived sense of humiliation, a perceived sense of failure, a perceived sense, perhaps above all, of alienation. And so I can tell you, if each of these people kind of had a girlfriend, or just a bunch of friends, they probably wouldn't have felt the need to make such a statement, because they would feel like they're part of society. They wouldn't need to send a message because they would be heard. They would be people would be responding to them anyway. Ironically, Warner also wrote about perception and that everything is an illusion, and even says there's no such thing as death. It's interesting that he says that, because of course he was caught up in illusion more than perhaps most.